Look it
He
up.
was an MVP candidate.
Let's look it up. Let's look it up. I don't even like pulling up the computer, but let's look it up.
Take a picture, sucker. This is how you get cooked when you're trying to come against Ron.
Everyone who's played hoops that I know personally who's played at like the college level or some semi-pro level, they always tend to lean towards Allen Iverson. While everyone who doesn't, who I think is knowledgeable, say myself, Mars, Damo, Mustard, I think we all lean to Steve Nash as a better basketball player. Or you know, okay, no.
Domo played, but Domo has AI.
My bad. I'm just saying, I do think it is that thing where people who played, they've always leaned toward Allen Iverson, while people who haven't, we tend to lean towards Steve Nash. I do think it's interesting why. Like, what's the disconnect?
I think Iverson is just more emotionally attached. Because I mean,
I get that.
And what level are you?
Why do people play?
What level of basketball player y'all even talking about? Y'all talking about past high school?
No, yeah, I'm saying guys who have played at the college level or semi-pro, whatever. Even personal people I know who played at college level. Guys who have played always tend to lean towards Allen Iverson, while knowledgeable people who
Iverson's just more popular. He's more ingrained.
He's just better.
Or haven't played.
It's very easy, and I'm a guy who I peaked at like pretty high level, well, not gonna say super high level, but reasonably high level of high school ball. It's because niggas understand how hard it was for Iverson to do what he did. That you have a respect for him going out there putting his body on the line.
Give him a handicap.
Like you understood,
he's more relatable. He's like 5'11".
Handicap. It's like he's a small guy that was going out there amongst the trees, banging on people.
It's a degree of difficulty.
Yeah, you understand how hard it is. Like you have a respect for.
To be fair, Steve Nash is small too. He's not a
but before D'Antoni.
Oh my God! What? Oh, you're telling me you're one of those people that think
that's the argument. That's just not
true.
That's the argument.
Oh, that's
what it is.
What people say.
Argument. He wasn't an MVP before D'Antoni arrives. He's an MVP.
Part of that's true. I'm just like Allen Iverson. I think he's a better player. I'm not looking at the better player. I'm not looking at height. I'm not looking at none of that. I'm looking at what Allen Iverson produced and what he did on the basketball court and how he looked. Allen Iverson is one of you hear it all the time. Pound for pound, one of the best scorers of all time. And I mean,
pound for pound.
You know, like it's things like that. It's things like game one of the finals. Things like that.
The game is not just about scoring, but I feel
and what can we say about Nash? The game is not just about passing.
But his playmaking is. I think the gap in playmaking is actually more than the gap in scoring.
A dude that led the league in scoring
4 times.
4 times.
Yeah, on like 1,000 shots. Congratulations. I mean,
hey man, you make as many as you make, man. It doesn't matter how many you miss.
When you take 1,000 shots, I expect you to get to at least 30 points.
And what offense? Once again, and Mars was probably trolling when he said it, but
no, I wasn't trolling. I was just saying that's the argument that gets made.
What offense was Steve Nash in?
See, told you.
You talking the 7 seconds or less offense?
Yes,
but he was also
time out. I just want you to think about this. For the most part, if the offense is 7 seconds or less, right? I'm a point guard. I get an outlet. I take 2 dribbles, kick the ball up the court. That person's able to jack the first shot, whether they're open, whether it's a good look, bad look, whether they're fading away, out of bounds. They still get to shoot the shot, and these are fairly good 3-point shooters too. So the majority of my passes are going to somebody that's actually shooting, which means the percentage of my chances of getting higher.
That's where I think you're off on that because.
I'm not done. On top of that, the percentage of the time that they were running pick and rolls with a dude like Amari, who was a roll threat demon, and I get to throw the ball up to the rim, and he just gets to go and catch everything. That also makes it better. On top of that, I'm running a fast break with Sean Marion, Dunk Champ, Jason Richardson, other guys that are able to get up the floor. I get to run with these guys. Come on, man. Steve Nash had an offense that was tailor-made for him to stack up assists all day, every day. And once again, and this isn't me hating on Steve Nash. I love Steve Nash's playmaking ability. I love the fact that he was able to lead that offense competently. But at the same time, that offense was tailor-made for him.
Okay, and this is why I say I think you're vastly underrating what Steve Nash did, and you're kind of overrating what Allen Iverson did. Because for you to acknowledge Steve Nash having a certain offense tailor-made for him and not acknowledge that Allen Iverson was on a team that was bereft of some offensive talent in a lot of his peak seasons, which was why he was able to just jack up a bunch of shots all the time. I think that's kind of a double standard. And then secondly, Steve Nash, you're talking about all these players he played with. And you're talking about Mike D'Antoni, 7 seconds or less team offense, which we've seen inflate certain people's assist numbers, which, by the way, I don't think assist numbers are everything when it comes to playmaking. It's just a small part of the argument. But let's even use that. Why was Mike D'Antoni, what was he doing before Steve Nash? What was those offensive players that you're talking about? What were they doing before Steve Nash? Amari Stoudemire, less efficient without Steve Nash. Sean Marion, all of them had their best seasons with Steve Nash. They were a mediocre.
Hold on. Wait. Amari Stoudemire went to be an MVP candidate without Steve Nash.
MVP candidate?
Stoudemire was an MVP candidate without Steve Nash.
In 10-11, when he was with the Knicks, he was in the conversation.
Amari Stoudemire was an MVP candidate in 2011.
Yes.
When he was
where did he finish in the race? Tell me what he finished in the race.
He was an MVP candidate.
I don't even like pulling up the computer, but let's look at it.
Sucker. This is how you get cooked when you're trying to come against Ron. You come against Ron, you come against me, sucker. Believe me, Bob ain't here today, so you all go down. Your other security guard.
I just pulled it up in 2011. I don't know what y'all are talking about, but in 2011, hold on, buddy. I'm letting you know, but bruh, he wasn't even top 5. He wasn't 6, 7, 8, or 9. He didn't get a first place vote. Like he was 10th. He was 10th or 9th. Excuse me. 9th is we're calling that MVP candidacy. You know how many players we can find that finish 9th, 8th, 6th, 7th?
No, hold on. He was top 10 out of 500, bro. Cut it out.
Mustard, you weren't. Mustard, their argument. You weren't really listening. You just heard MVP candidate. Listen, they said in the early part of the season he was a strong candidate, but didn't he get hurt that year? That was he got
the first part of the season he was a candidate. Yeah, I view it the same way people say DeMar DeRozan was an MVP candidate in 22.
But that first half of that season,
that's actually even worse.
That first half of that season, Mustard. Listen,
the
first half of that season, Mustard, he was hooping, and it was without Steve Nash.
Nobody is saying Dom. Nobody's saying. I never said
But you said But you said what did he do before Steve Nash, which would imply his numbers are getting boosted because of Steve Nash. What I'm saying is that first half of that season, the first season without Steve Nash, his numbers were even better without Steve Nash. Then he got hurt. That's what they're trying to say.
See, and I hear you there, but my argument is not that Amari can't put up numbers. Amari's not a good player. He can't be useful on other teams, but his best seasons came with Steve Nash. Sean Marion's best offensive seasons came with Steve Nash. Sure. Go look at what they were doing before they got Amari.
Amari Stoudemire's best season was with the Knicks. It wasn't with Steve Nash. No, his best season was that first year with the Knicks. It was. That season was better than all of these with the Knicks. What are you talking about?
It was not. It was not.
I just capped. He played 78 games that season.
No. Damo.
That game.
No.
Damo. I was wrong.
Damo.
It was the first part of the season was a candidate. It just
that year with. What you say, Mars?
Nothing. Go ahead.
No. I want you to say that again. I heard what you said.
I said it was the first part of the season. Amari was an MVP candidate.
But he finished top 10, right? He finished top 10 MVP.
He was ninth or whatever. Then I believe they got Melo that year. And then
I thought they got Melo the next year. I thought they got Melo
the next year. He got hurt. They got Melo the next year. Hey, Mars. Well, my point to him is this. He basically was saying that this dude wasn't doing much without Steve Nash. I'm telling you.
That's not what I said.
Hold on. Yes, you did. Hold on. We can rewind and take that. That's why I hold on.
I said his best seasons came with Steve Nash.
I'm about to cook you real good because I ain't just going to him. Not only him, Joe Johnson played better without Steve Nash. So cut the shit when he went down there to Atlanta. So don't now let me really fry your ass. Joe Johnson took his game.
I never even brought up Joe Johnson, by the way. I never even brought one. I never brought up Joe Johnson. Two,
I'm bringing him up.
Joe Johnson left after like 06, 05, one of those years. He didn't play with Steve Nash that long. And if you actually look at Joe Johnson's career right before he got Steve Nash, immediately as soon as Steve Nash got there, he was a much better player. He was actually an efficient offensive player. He was not a good offensive player before he got Steve Nash.
Mustard, it's understandable who Steve Nash is in that he makes the people around him better. Nobody's discrediting Steve Nash for that. All of these guys were more than likely better with Steve Nash because Steve Nash is a hell of a playmaker. He's a hell of a point guard. He's one of the best point guards ever.
And I also think, Ron, his scoring, and that's why I get to the scoring part of Steve Nash.
And I'm gonna get to the passing part of Allen Iverson too.
Iverson is a really good playmaker. He's a solid playmaker. I have no problem with you gassing his playmaker, but it's not comparable. His playmaking and Steve Nash playmaker, it's not comparable. The scoring gap between Iverson and Steve Nash, I actually think Steve Nash is not a better scorer than Iverson. I think Iverson's a better scorer because just at the end of the day, the volume and the raw totals of Allen Iverson, I have to value that to some degree over what Steve Nash did. Because Steve Nash, he'll even tell you himself he should have been more aggressive. He was not as aggressive as he should have been in a lot of games, moments, series throughout his career. But the efficiency of Steve Nash's game, and go look at some of these playoffs Steve Nash had. Steve Nash could score all through, maybe at the rim. He wasn't the best finisher at the rim, but outside of the rim, he was a great scorer everywhere on the court. Great mid-range shooter, great three-point shooter, great free throw shooter, efficient everywhere. That is easier to play off of as an offensive player than Allen Iverson. It's just easier.
It's also easier to score. And it's also easier to score once again when you have Joe Johnsons, when you have Leandro Barbosas, when you have Jason Richardsons, when you have Sean Marions, Amari Stoudemire, and you got an offense that's run and gun with Mike D'Antoni. It's easier to score in that as well. So let's think of the number.
Yeah, and it's also when you're talking about the raw and Allen Iverson's edge over Steve Nash, right? Is it not the raw totals? Like him averaging 30-something points a game. That is really his argument against Steve Nash. And is it not like that because he's on a depleted roster? Yes or no? When you're on a depleted roster, you're getting all these touches to go out there and jack up these shots. You're not efficient anywhere. He's not efficient anywhere.
Is the roster depleted, or is that they just made it that way to complement him? So it's not like they just threw some ragtag crews together, as opposed to them just putting the roster together to complement Allen Iverson. And why are we talking about Steve Nash in the Mike D'Antoni system like he wasn't awesome before he got with Mike D'Antoni? I don't understand why we talking about Steve Nash. I don't understand why we talk about Steve Nash like
people act like him and Dirk weren't leading the best offense in the league when they were together.
Before he got with Mike D'Antoni. I mean, he was on his way to doing something like this. He was on his way to doing something special before he got with Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni enhanced his game, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't awesome before he got with Mike D'Antoni. Had he stayed with Dirk Nowitzki, he could very well have been in the MVP conversation maybe later on had he stayed with him. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Steve Nash wasn't a beneficiary to the 8 seconds or less offense. 100% he was, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't awesome before he got on that crew.
It's Lowe's fault.